We've had a few hours now to process this Alex Caruso and Josh Giddey trade, and it seems as though the Thunder did indeed win this trade, but like I said before in the previous video, I do think both sides won, as the Bulls did find their point guard of the future, as it seems like Lonzo Ball just is not that guy anymore with all the injuries he's dealt with. However, the truth behind this Alex Caruso trade goes even deeper, I believe. Like, when you look at it, when you look at what he brings to the table defensively and offensively, yes, it's great. But it's everything else going on behind the scenes as well. And we're going to go ahead and dive deep into this in this video today and kind of go over this ESPN article that I found grading the trade, where they gave the Oklahoma City Thunder an A grade for this trade for just Alex Caruso, because it's one of those weird scenarios. You don't really see a just straight up player swap anymore in the NBA. There's always picks involved. There's always 2 or 3 players for one guy. But more than likely, you always are including a pick, no matter what in a trade. No matter what. And so it's just rare to see that. And I feel like that's one of the reasons the Thunder kind of have this higher grade than the Bulls do in this trade, because there are a lot of questions surrounding Josh Giddey if he can be that player. However, there's a ton of things that open up for the Thunder, and we're going to go ahead and look into it here with the article. The first thing that we have here, all right, this is written by Kevin Pelton. To some extent, then, Oklahoma City can reasonably blame bad luck for what happened against Dallas, but instead of resting on that, the Thunder are also being proactive and trying to replicate the perimeter defense that helped Boston contain Doncic and Irving one-on-one. Already boasting 3 starters who received all defensive votes last season, stopper Lou Dort, league steals leader Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and rim protector Chet Holmgren, Oklahoma City now adds all defensive second-team pick Caruso, who finished second behind Herb Jones of the New Orleans Pelicans among perimeter players in the voting. So that goes into, the defensive side of Alex Caruso and what he brings. And now going more into this deeper dive into what he is. A first-team pick the year before, Caruso is the rare guard whose defensive impact matches up with the league's best interior defenders. Caruso leads all players in the 3-year version of luck-adjusted RAPM from Narsu, which attempts to isolate an individual's impact on defensive rating while adjusting for teammates, opponents, and shot-making variants. Of the next 8 players in this metric, 7 are big man. If Caruso replaces Giddey in the Thunder starting 5, it's hard to find a weakness for opponents to hunt. That would leave Jalen Williams, a solid individual defender in his own right, as Oklahoma City's only starter, or perhaps more importantly, finisher, who did not receive all defensive votes, similar to the formula the Celtics rode to the title. This is what really stands out to me. That is what really kind of stands out to me, where we saw the success that Boston had going on. And we kind of had the same situation. I'm not going to say it's the exact same, but it's very similar to what they were doing. They had a key duo that they were going to ride for years to come in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. They know that. We kind of have that figured out now, but instead it's a trio. And they had that with Marcus Smart as well. All right, they had this little trio going on, but really it's more of a duo, and then they might try to make it a trio with either Kristaps or Derek White, one of those 2 guys. And so now we're going to try and replicate that same thing by going out there and trading for low budget, I say low budget, contract-friendly role players that can actually impact the team and play like all-star guys when they're surrounded by the right people. That's what happened with Derek White. Everyone was saying he was an all-star, even though years prior, no one really considered him to even be close to that level. But now he was surrounded by this team to where people kind of forget how good of a player he is, because they're so worried about these other 2 stars on this team that lead them. And it kind of shows them like, oh man, now this guy's going to go out there and average you 18 points a game as well and be great defensively. It's the same thing that the Celtics did that we're trying to replicate, because we saw how well it worked out. But the big thing that stands out to me about this, the huge and ginormous thing, is the fact that we're still going to have space to go after a big name free agent this offseason. When I say big name, sure, there are opportunities to go get Paul George, but this is what it kind of tells me. Better yet, Caruso's bargain $9.89 million salary in the final season of his contract, somehow just $3 million guaranteed through June 30th, doesn't take much out of Oklahoma City's cap space. The Thunder can still create nearly $30 million below the cap, more than enough to make a run at a second-tier free agent, such as New York Knicks center Isaiah Hartenstein. So that is what really stands out to me. I feel like this is the reason we traded for Caruso. Not because we needed an upgrade. Yes, it is an upgrade at that position. It is. I feel like we do have a better player now, as Caruso, I believe, finished ranked 62nd in the league, the top 100 player voting. I believe he ranked 62nd because of his defensive skills and his perimeter shooting. It is an upgrade, but however, it's the fact that we have so much freedom to do what we want in free agency now. There's a clear path of what we're trying to do in free agency in the draft, and that is to go after a big man. There's no more questions about, okay, are we going to sign a free agent and then draft a big man and hope they can have success instantly in the league? Oh, are we going to trade for a big man and then, go after another guy in free agency that's a guard? Are we really going to try to add another guard to the team, draft one like Jared McCain or someone along those levels? Now it is clear in the draft and free agency, we're going to go after a big man. No, I'm not saying we're no longer going to be trading with anyone. There can still be a ton of trades that happen. I feel like Presti has a trade hidden up his sleeve on draft night that he's going to pull out of nowhere. I feel like that can definitely happen, that he has one on draft night planned that we just don't know about yet. But it's kind of clear now, okay, free agency, a ton opens up here. And I'm just going to show you some of the options that we can now use with this $30 million that we have in free agency still to use. All right. When you look at the centers first, all right, there are some big names that I'm seeing here. Jonas Valanciunas, Nicholas Claxton, and Isaiah Hartenstein, the usual guys that we've been talking about on this channel that can find a way onto the team and bring success to the Thunder. They fill a glaring hole in need that we have in interior defense and rebounding, all three of those guys. Then there's some other guys I see there that I'm like budget options that could do really well off the bench if we really want Caruso starting. There are questions about his durability, sure, but he could be a starter on this team depending on who we get. We can do a budget option and go get two bigs if we want. We can go get a guy like, I think we could get Wagner, and I think we could also get Drummond. I feel like those are two good budget options for role players coming off the bench, big man-wise. Drummond, we're not going to be using him offensively. He's not going to be a starter. We know that. He'll play 10 to 12 minutes a game, but he's purely in there for when we have a lack of size to go in there and be this big man that can fight on the boards. That is what he's used for. However, when I look at this list still, the two main guys that we still need to go after, and I feel like even when I'm going to show you the forwards here in a minute, I feel like these are the two guys we are 100% should try to go after, and Claxton and Hartenstein. Those are the two guys that should have all of our attention and focus now going into the draft and the rest of the offseason. Now, going into the rest of the list here with the forwards, there are some huge names on here when you look at it. You got LeBron James as a player option. Realistically, that's not happening, guys. Go ahead and get rid of that. Tobias Harris is going to be on a, definitely a cheaper contract because he's not the player that he used to be. That could be an option if we really want to and go out there, draft a big man, and then sign a forward. That is an option. Then you guys got guys like DeMar DeRozan as well. Another guy, OG, that we've talked about a little bit. I think he's going to be a little bit, too costly for us to go out there and get is the thing. And then some other budget options down there as well when you're looking here. Guys like Covington, who's always been decent in his career. Dougie McThunderbuckets, if you guys remember him, real one there. Doug McDermott, PJ Tucker, decent options at the forward position. We have some big names up there. We're also not going to be, say the man's name that shall not be said that ultimately did not pan out for us when we traded for him. But as you can see there, going back and forth between the forwards and centers here, I feel like the centers should take up majority of our focus in free agency just because it's going to be more likely we get one of them in Claxton or Hartenstein. I believe this Caruso trade really opens it up and shows it to all these guys before free agency actually starts. Instead of, where all teams can talk with all players now, instead of the teams trying to retain the players that were on their team already before they hit free agency, before they can talk to everyone else. That can show to Hartenstein, Claxton, some other people as well, hey, we are serious about bringing you on this team. That's why we went ahead and traded for this guy so you don't have lingering thoughts. Okay, who else are you talking to in free agency? Because now it kind of shows them like, okay, it comes down to Claxton or Hartenstein. Who says yes first? And who's going to be here on a cheaper deal? Which one works out better for us? And that's really like the truth behind this Caruso trade. That's what it's all about. It's to show in free agency we mean business and we're going to go out there, add a big man in free agency and maybe even in the draft where we want to. And that's not the only move. That's what is really behind this whole Caruso trade. Presti has this whole kind of like vision board put up here in his office somewhere, where he has everything planned out and methodically thought about it, where he's like, yes, this is going to happen and there's going to be a domino effect, this and that and that. And Caruso was just the starting point. All right. It's not a big overhaul of the Thunder because I feel like Giddey will be the only player that is gone from the team last season. I just think we're going to keep on adding because now is the perfect time to, before Dub and Chet are on these big contracts, before Shai gets this, record-breaking deal, before Lou Dort eventually asks for more money as well, because it's just bound to happen. We're not loaded with cash. We're a small market team. It's expected to happen. But I do think Caruso, this trade is just the domino effect that's going to fall, because at the time of recording this video, there was another Woj bomb. Malik Monk re-signed with the team. I feel like he was also a guy that was waiting to see what the Thunder did, and when he saw we traded for him, he traded for Caruso, he was like, okay, clearly they're not interested in me anymore, so I'm going to go back to Sacramento. Like I mentioned there, this Caruso trade just shows the two guys that are at the top of our list, Claxton and Hartenstein, that we are serious about going after them. That is what this Caruso trade really meant for the Thunder and the entirety of the league. But let me know in the comments what you guys actually think this trade meant. If you guys think, there are some other thoughts about it out there, like, oh, this is actually why we traded for him. Or is it just because Caruso is a better player than Giddey? It just, made sense on paper to trade for him. Let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video.